for me, it is what is very distinctive about Pope Francis. This whole culture of encounter is based on our basic biblical affirmation that we are all created in the image and likeness of God. Further, I would say that the whole understanding of Jesus's incarnation, right now it is more meaningful to talk about, we are waiting for Christmas. The whole aspect or understanding of incarnation, God becoming like us, a human being. Therefore, every human being is born with that dignity and that worth, and they are worthy to be respected. I think that is the deeper basis on which Pope Francis is calling us to build this process of encounter, culture of encounter. And when we look at Jesus, he did not really exclude or discriminate no one, even his enemies. That is very outstanding. Therefore, our basic Christian affirmation that every person is worthy of respect and understanding. Even the person who is having a viewpoint which is so totally against our own Christian faith affirmations, even that person I need to encounter. That's later on, I will come to that. Our task as disciples of Jesus is to further the reign of God. This is what I strongly believe. And for me, this whole question of culture of encounter is one of the tangible ways that we further the reign of God. In the reign of God, we talk about equality, fellowship. We are all brothers and sisters. Now, if we really want to accomplish, to realize that, I think one way is, what Pope Francis is saying, we need to do that. We need to encounter people, and I remember very painfully when I was in States in 2019 for a short period. So what is very specific about Pope Francis's idea of encountering people, I see, is encountering people on the margins, encountering people who are made poor, encountering unwanted people in our societies, encountering people in their pain and their utter misery. And these encounters, I know from my experience, are really painful and they are really challenging. They challenge my own comfort zones. I'm sitting in this room very cozy, but today I'm going to meet one family soon after this. And I know they are, having a lot of difficulties in life. And therefore, when I go there with them, listen to their same stories, same what you say, the stories of misery, in a sense, and that is going to unsettle my own comfort zone. For a brief time, I will be encountering this disturbance of my inner peace. I'll be disturbed, and I have to allow myself to be disturbed if I want to encounter people. So that is what I see. First question, what is specific to Pope Francis? For the culture of encounter is very sure way in which I, individual, Shalini, practice my Christian faith concretely, very tangibly. This is what I find. And Jesus gave only one commandment: love your God, love your neighbor. Nothing more, nothing less. And your neighbor is the one you are asked to encounter as your friend, as your brother, as your sister. At times, as I alter, it's very challenging when the other is having a different viewpoint. It is very difficult to accept and respect that person. It is easy for me to encounter a person, to have a conversation with somebody with the same wavelength, same understanding. But it is very, very challenging to be friendly with a person with a different viewpoint without getting annoyed, upset, with having a very friendly, keeping up a very friendly tone until the end of the conversation. And that is a challenge. That is the challenge Jesus places before me. That's what I look at. I become his follower to the extent I can live with, engage with, and work with the people who are different from me. So I want to go a little bit back to my own childhood upbringing. Another area of my struggle is, is people with the different ideologies. These ideologies, when they question my fundamental Christian belief and value systems. Yesterday we heard in our news, in Punjab, 2 persons were lynched, killed. Even the police could not take them out. They were present there. Such a crowd, just, and the whole thing they talked about the persons, they said they sacrileged some Hindu or their Sikh object or flag or something like that. For me, it is very, very difficult to take such an ideology that you can take human life just like that. For me, it's very difficult. Be it we talk about Taliban, talk about ISIS, talk about the Hindu fundamentals here. The human life, when it comes, it is threatened with such a terrible ideology. And for me, the difficulty is, how do I hold, as I told you, when I think of such people, when I see them on the screen, TV screen, how do I practice non-violence in my own mind? How do I practice non-hatred? This is my challenge, big challenge. How do I cope up with? And often I say to myself, Shalini, don't take the entire burden. There is a loving God who is seeing all this. And see what you can do about it. But then, don't take the entire burden on you. And I understand when we say God is unconditionally loving. And I am struggling to become that unconditionally loving, even in my mind. I may not be meeting these people, directly as such. But then, meeting in the newspaper, in the TV screen, and hearing about them, seeing what is happening, again, that is for me a kind of a very big challenge. And how to be positive, how to pass, how to keep myself positive, and give that positive energy to the world which is having full of hatred. And I see that is also another type of encounter. Maybe Pope Francis may not have spoken directly, but indirectly, of course. I see this is another aspect of the culture of encounter. Even without encountering, you encounter the person in your mind and in your heart. Just the other day, I saw a small video clip, very short video. At I can just share with you that a little small. It's the home scene. Now it's Christmas season. It's a Hindu home, and what is happening? The little child is very sad because in the neighborhood, the neighboring house, stars went up. They put up the star. And the little child is running to her papa. She must be 3-4 years old. And she says, Papa, when are we putting the star up? And the father takes her lovingly and says, see, we go to temple. We are Hindus. It's people who go to church. It's they who put up the stars, not we. And so it's okay, and send her away. And she is feeling, her face is all downcast, not satisfied with the answer. And she is sitting on the veranda of the house while her grandmother comes. She is coming back from the temple. From morning, she went to the temple to worship. And she comes back and she was putting this tilak on the baby. And she notices her face is all not happy. She asks, what happened, my child? And then she says, where did you go, grandma? She says, I went to the temple. And then she said, yeah, because we are going to the temple, we are worshipping there, we cannot put up stars in our home like the others are doing. And she asked, who told you that? She said, Papa told me. So she called the papa, her son, and scolded him. And he told, at least our new generation should grow up in religious harmony, not in hatred for one another. And therefore, she says, even though you are grown up, I tell you, and I am asking you to go and buy a star immediately and put it up for our little girl. And let them live as human beings. And then he goes and then put the star, and the child is so excited. A short video of 2 or 3 minutes, if that can have such a power in communicating that how we are basically human beings. Humanity unites us, nothing else. And so I believe in the visual form, whether it is short videos or movies, films. I believe it can really help in creating this culture of encounter, creating, changing mindsets, opening up your mind and to someone else. And so I believe, the power of movies, short videos. I also see the power of literature in the form of whatever form that people can, not so much of the heavy stuff that as we theologians write. I believe in the power of, language, the literature, whatever form, especially form that people will appeal to their various senses, appeal to affect their, their emotional level. I would think, so Francis is rightly said, we have to create processes to encounter. So artistic productions are I think it will play a big role. That I believe in that. The second one, I think, we need to create opportunities for people. When you talk about interreligious, intercultural dialogue, it won't happen. And what is happening right now is at the scholarly level. But we have to create opportunities where ordinary people living ordinary lives can talk about, and something positive. And in my own travel experiences, what I noticed, if you know something about the other person's culture, if you know one or two words in their language, if I know there's something of a specific to one's culture or about their religious beliefs, if I know something, it's very easy for me to make that dialogue happen. They get interested because the moment you speak their language, even if it is a broken one word, people at once, it's an indication that you are interested in them. It's a small gestures. So I would think, I often used to say in our own schools, we have our Catholic schools. I say we have to, and majority are Hindus and Muslims. I visualize, I'm pushing forward that, we have to teach, we can have religious education, as where we give one year you teach about the basics of Hinduism. 1 year you cover Islam, 1 year on Sikhism, 1 year on Christianity, so that all the students will have some basic knowledge about this. This, I think, that is also, I would think of creating a process of encounter wherever possible, without threatening anybody. All of us, just a basic general knowledge about that would help in the long run. And therefore, each of us who are wanting to have this kind of encounters, we need to get interested in the other person's, life, culture, religion, whatever may be that, language, and show some interest. Then it is, the encounter is very easy. And the distance between, the distance between me and the other can be shortened. Definitely, I believe in the third, when you talk about the common projects, which is affecting all common issues, affecting all of us. Right now, it is the climate change, the ecological disaster that is almost, 3,000 days only left for our action. So, joining hands with the people of all faiths and different, I don't know, there we can, I think there can have this can become a focus point where we can have a culture of encounter, whether it is global health. Right now we are seeing, if one is not vaccinated, or then nobody is safe. No use one country is fully vaccinated and the other country is not. We have seen that. Therefore, we have to work towards that global solidarity. And again, for me, that is what is the reign of God is all about. I believe that God is at work, and even through this pandemic, God is giving us a message. And often I tell in my class to students, when we talk about even feminism, it is not that we women should do all that the men are doing. I said, many things men are doing is wrong. For example, taking up arms is against the Christian values. No more we can talk about the reign of God with the arms and ammunition. We can never talk about, if you keep on having our own narrow national boundaries, we have to slowly break it down. Kingdom can come only, and we are moving towards that. Moving towards, So I often tell them, imagine a world where we don't need visas. We don't have it, we don't have borders. And think of imagine a borderless world where people are free to move, free to go about. And this is my dream, and that is nothing but the reign of God for me. And we are slowly moving, through crooked various ways, we are moving towards that. And so therefore the whole question of equitable sharing of wealth, the earth's resources, all this will come under that. And so there is a joining hands with people of goodwill that would help us, and this would be giving us occasions. These issues will give us occasions to work together, join hands together.